But let's now put the spotlight on the auto sector. Tata Motors expects good double-digit growth in FY23 for the commercial vehicle segment. Speaking to CNBC-TV18's Parikshit Luthra from the sidelines of the SIAM convention, Tata Motors Executive Director Girish Wagh adds that the chip shortage issue is now behind to a great extent, but remains something to monitor. Also talks about the EV expansion plans. Listen in.
After the peak of FY19, the commercial vehicle industry saw 2 years of downturn, and compared with the peak of FY19, in FY21, we saw almost 50% growth or decline from the top. So therefore that low base, FY22 was the first year when we saw some 27% growth, and now we are in FY23, we see that growth momentum continuing.
I would also like to ask you about some of the issues with regard to input costs. Do you see that stabilizing, or that continues to be on the higher end, putting pressure on your cost of manufacturing?
Right. So I think if you look at various commodities and the basket of commodities that we buy, I think steel has been on a very high level, right? It seems to be stabilizing, but is still at a high level. We expect that the steel prices should go down in the second half. The other commodities are essentially the precious metals, which are used in the after treatment of the vehicle. So they have been on a downturn, so to say, from Q4 of last year, and we expect those to remain at that level.
You have started rollout of your electric vehicles, alternate fuel vehicles. Give us a sense of the number of products in the EV segment, in the alternate fuel segment, that you'd like to bring in the remaining part of this fiscal and next year.
Right. So I think we believe, and even in today's convention it was clear, that the transition to zero emission vehicle in commercial vehicle industry is going to be through alternate fuel. And then in alternate fuel you will have, CNG, LNG, bio CNG and so on and so forth. So I think therefore we are getting ready for CNG across the range. We were already present in small commercial vehicles and intermediate and light commercial vehicles. Just 10 days back, we've also launched the first CNG truck in medium and heavy commercial vehicles.
Right.
Following this, I think most of the closed loop usages, irrespective of the segment, we see that there is a potential to move towards electrification. The reason being, I think most of the end user companies also have their net zero goals, so they also want to transition towards zero emission vehicles.
Also, sir, when it comes to capacity ramp up, you're saying that you're working on a tender for 5,000 electric buses for CESL. CESL will now also come out with a 10,000 bus tender, because they're getting a lot of demands from states and different small towns as well. Are you now getting up for a capacity expansion when it comes to manufacturing electric buses? Is the present capacity at Tata Motors enough, or would you need to acquire more?
So, as far as electric buses are concerned, we should look at capacity in 3 buckets. The first is the rolling chassis, wherein we don't have a constraint. The second one is the bus body, right? Again, there we don't have a constraint because we have 2 subsidiaries which manufacture the bus bodies. I think the area where we need to ramp up is the electrical aggregates, that is batteries and traction motors. So that's where we are working with our supply chain within the country and outside the country to ensure that we are able to ramp up to the extent that is required to meet these requirements.
Okay, so that's management of Tata Motors, and with that it's also a wrap on Halftime Report. Business Lunch up next. Stay tuned.